You voted on him.
Yes, this is Tony Kwasinski. Tony is the third member of our IT department. So Tony, thank you for stepping in to help.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. You too.
Thanks, Tony.
I'll leave it open.
That's great. Thank you.
Ah, there you have it.
I'll work on it.
All right. That brings us, for the good of the cause. Do you have any communications?
Should have been prepared. No, we do not.
There's a link that says from Beth G. Is that an old link?
Oh, there must be.
I think I remember seeing that video.
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will remove that.
All right, for the information for the public, we don't have anything either. That brings us into our reports. So the budget performance report. Take it away, Dana.
Sure, look at it, month end, we'll start with expenses, month ends, a little less, than 5% less spent this past March than last March. So that's a good sign, but as we always say, everything's a snapshot, it's when things get processed. So, last month we had a higher than normal because of when things, we had two payments to BOCES. But all in all, in terms of just keeping it simple, our expenses are in line as it stands right now. It's about a 1% increase from year to date from this year to last year, which is a little lower. We've been trending about 3%, 3.5% year to date. But that doesn't mean that we're not spending as much. It's just again timing, with March. But all said, we need to look at it. We're plodding along. We're actually, when I looked at it today, we're actually trending a little lower than where we were last year for expenses, as a snapshot of today. But again, it's all usually just a snapshot when we pull these reports and we look at the information. As it goes for revenue, you'll see that on the revenue side, year-to-date revenue, we're increase. Actually, when I look today, we're up about $1 million in revenue from this point last year, and largely that's driven by our tax levy. Went up about $500,000. Our interest last year at this time, we had generated about $120,000 in interest from our reserve accounts. Right now, we are about $490,000. Yes, absolutely. So when you look at that, they are the two biggest drivers as to why we are about $1 million more in revenue at this point than last year. Those are the two main factors. Not to mention, we have one of the other factors here is we brought in about a little over $100,000 in miscellaneous revenue, and that is a good portion of that is we finally got reimbursed from the state for our SSBA, which is basically it's a bond act that the state passed many years ago for technology upgrades. For probably 6-7 years ago is when it was passed, and getting reimbursed always is like pulling teeth. It's yes. We have finally spent down what they allocated to us after all of these years. So we ended up getting about $92,000 a couple weeks ago that finally got back. So that's driving that $100,000+ in additional revenue than we were last year. So right now we're trending very well. The revenue about $1 million more. We're on budget. If I look at it, the projection right now is we're actually going to project to generate a little more than $360,000 more in revenue than what we budgeted. Which, if all things play out, that the big factor there is our return on our interest is really a big driver there, as well as some of this additional revenue. We got $15,000 from Essex County reimbursement that we weren't planning on. It's a quick turnaround. So all said and done, things are looking good in terms of our expenses and our.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, any questions on the budget report? Dana? Now over to Dana for the treasurer's.
Treasury report, nothing really unusual there. We're still seeing, we have about $14.8 billion in our operating funds, and that is between our actual checking account, insured cash sweep, and then our NI class. A bulk of that is our NI class. That's where we are keeping most of, almost $13 million of our reserves in that NI class, generating a little 5%. The insured cash sweep, that's where we can usually pull out. That's where we take when we pay payroll or need cash for paying checks, paying bills. So we go from an NI class into the ICS and then into our operating accounts. But we keep it outside. You can see we purposely keep our operating funds low because it doesn't generate as much interest as the other two accounts do. Money in, money out. You'll see that cash receipts. This is a pretty high month, a little over $1.3 million. But at the same time, we paid out a little over $2.3 million. But that is typical of this year. We typically spend more than we bring in on a month-to-month basis because 80% of our revenue is in by November. Highly large number of outstanding checks, about $785,000. Again, that goes with timing. Did a warrants just before the spring break. So I think it was March 28th. We sent out all of our payments, and that's why we have a huge outstanding in terms of that. Driven, of course, by largest of the bills go to BOCES each and every month. Between our health insurance, the monthly invoice for their BOCES services, things like that. But all said and done, we're still pretty healthy. Isn't any need to make any cuts as we talk about it. So, question on the Treasury report.
All right, okay. Dana? Tim? Superintendent's report?
Sure. So very quick turnaround since our last meeting, just 3 school days, but nonetheless, since that time, last Friday, there was an elementary assembly. There's an Oxpella group from Plattsburgh, from their high school that performed for our students. They're called From Out of Nowhere. So thanks to Plattsburgh High and for Mrs. Franklin for arranging that with the kids. They had a nice time. Today was another exciting day too at the elementary. It really district-wide, it's birthday today. And the elementary school had a bevy of activities for the duration of the morning. So as you well know, we have a capstone project that is the culminating experience for our students when they graduate. And they can start as early as freshman year if they so desire, but they really kick it into high gear, certainly when they're seniors. And we have a junior, Emma Wiley, who is very conscientious with regards to the environment. And her capstone project was to raise awareness of green practices by holding events at the elementary school on Earth Day, which she did to great effect today. So thank you to Emma for doing that, and to Mrs. Morgan's science classes for also participating. And then last but not least, within the last 6 days since we've seen each other, the budget, of course, New York State finally came to a head after a couple of internet hacks and a series of other hijinks you just can't necessarily predict. But ultimately, the threat of a removal of foundation aid of over $800,000 for our district has been rescinded. So we are to receive the same amount of state aid that we received last year over year. Really want to thank Dan Steck and Billy Jones. They advocated so fiercely for our district in particular and the North Country in ensuring that we receive that funding back through the negotiations with the governor. So we are very strongly represented in the Senate and the Assembly. Thank you to both of those individuals. And just some other interesting things that were included in the budget final package that I thought I would mention. It did call upon the Rockefeller Institute to come up with a study by December of this coming year to analyze foundation aid formula. And so with the December 1st deadline, it is reasonable to assume that there will be continued interest on the part of the executive in our state to reevaluate how foundation aid is distributed to schools. So we've bought ourselves a breather for this year, but the shot across the bow has officially happened. So that's good to note. No rescinding of the zero emission school bus mandate. There was through the package a commitment to have additional resources put on a webpage from NYSERDA. So that will become available so that districts can continue looking at making informed moves towards transitioning to zero emission buses. And then the last piece I just wanted to mention is certainly something that I'm really pleased about. The State Education Department by 2025 will require that at a minimum, students in grades pre-K through 3 have ELA curriculum that folds in and follows the practices of the science of reading. And we are ahead of the curve thanks to our efforts at the elementary school and thanks to some very pointed and thoughtful direction from this board. So thank you for that, because we are walking into this year, assuming we have passage of the budget, with a plan to implement a science of reading curriculum for kindergarten through grade 6 starting next year.
So by fall of September 25, that's statewide. That's
Yes.
not individual districts choosing which curriculum. Okay. interesting.
Yeah, so by fall of 2025, districts at a minimum will have to certify that their reading practices are aligned with the science of reading. And so I'll be able to certify that wholeheartedly a year in advance, which is
Yeah,
excellent.
that's great. That's wonderful.
It's great.
So really, really great news.
Well, and Laura Coffin too, for really jumping into the program. before-
And Sonia Franklin, the
Yeah,
two of them have been amazing.
Yeah, that's great. They presented what, a year ago or something?
They did. Yeah, they jumped right in and
So May, at the time they asked about, they may need additional resources, did that ever come into play?
you're looking at it. Dana and I have talked at length of
Good.
what do they need to get it done?
Perfect.
And so this curriculum is state of the art. It's highly accredited. It's a substantial investment on our district.
Good,
Uh,
well, that's important.
Oh, that's exciting.
Substantial in this.
It's
Yeah,
exciting that
it's-
we're ahead of it.
and it is.
Kids need to have to read,
That's great.
read, it's good. Thank you, David, thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, any questions on Tim's tirade there?
Should change it. I have just Tim's tirade.
Yeah.
He did.
That's last meeting.
That's right. All right, there information for the board. You'll see the extracurricular report and also exact content. You'll see budget go out to voters and districts.
Mm-hmm.
The district. And it will also, I can say this, it means some good news, that's meet the tax cap.
Oh, very
So,
much, yes.
That's great work on Dana and his team, and we'll give credit to him too. Working that out, and I know there's a lot of moving pieces, all of you. So I really appreciate all the hard work that went into that and keeping it within those parameters. Not easy. But if it was easy, Dana, everybody would want your job.
Ah,
Yeah. Curtain back.
All right, so
that's a good letter.
that brings us to discussion section. First up is super eval, our favorite time of
It's
year.
wonderful. Look
We
forward to
all
it.
love.
Struggled through
Yeah,
that last year,
that's
trying to figure out
funny.
the program.
Yes, so this is that special time of year in a board member's life, when you have the opportunity to reach out to our district clerk for any questions related to accessing the super eval platform. Nothing is expected of you presently. I will be doing some legwork over the next 2 weeks to provide some updates on the goals that I set for myself and the board assisted in creating for the year. I've attached those goals as a reminder to the bottom of this section if you're curious. But ultimately, the goal is for me to complete my self-assessment by May 9th. And then prior to the meeting on the 22nd, for the board to then evaluate what I've uploaded in my performance for the year in those categories by the 22nd. And then you'll see that the 2 board meetings that will require some action are in the month of June. And then just like a Christmas wish, it will vaporize until next year. And so we'll carry on. So if there's any questions about accessing that platform in advance, please let Karen know. And otherwise, I often will get this information completed prior to the deadline. So I will email all of you when you can go in and access if you want to get in there and do so.
Great. Any other questions on super eval? I'm sure you'll be emailing Karen. I will.
I think we talked for a couple days ago, to be honest with you.
What's the link again? How do I find it?
You logged in, it works great.
Hey,
All right.
Rick texted me and he said he misses super eval.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to cell phone policy discussion. Is there anybody who wants to kick this off? Tim, you want to kick us off here?
What I would just say is I can briefly explain what is taking place presently. That would be beneficial, I think, for everyone.
Okay.
So cell phones for student use are not allowed at the elementary school in any capacity. So you can push that to the side already. That brings us to the middle high school. At the middle school, when students arrive, they are directed to put their phones in their lockers and retrieve them at the end of the day. So there still is some interplay with just social media naturally that leaks into the school day because these are teenagers we're talking about and adolescents. So that's a part of it. So social media does play a role in some of the drama that may occur in a middle schooler's life, but it really has to do with its use outside of the classroom. The area where cell phone use is permitted in the school is for high schoolers under certain conditions. Those conditions are if a teacher allows for the use of the cell phone in a study hall and during lunch. So as a result, observationally, I did ask our admin team to weigh in on this a little bit. These devices are used pervasively during lunch. So the amount of socialization that you might anticipate is reduced as a result of that. There is social media use by the students with regards to these. And really the only limiters for high school students presently with regards to cell phones are that they are not to use them when transferring between classes, and they are not to have them in a class if the teacher expresses they do not want it. That's the
Let me go
circumstance.
back to the limited social media use that exists. Does Chromebooks allow that to happen?
So does Chromebook allow, so like,
Yes, is that,
those
would
are,
that be a tool to access social media?
no, there's firewalls and
Okay.
yeah, so we have a site called Go Guardian that puts out, it staves off access to social media because it has no educational benefit for students. So our Chromebooks, the one way that students can communicate and connect with each other, they can message each other through some of the Google educational apps, but that's pretty much the extent of what a Chromebook allows. So you can't be going on like Facebook or TikTok or whatever.
I'm referring to your comments that said we do have some limited social media use in the school now. Is that on cell phones?
That relates to cell phones. So
That's a
yes.
cell phone, yeah.
Yeah, and so the students who are on their own data plan, high schoolers, they're still going to engage in those activities.
So what is the feedback that you're getting here from the admin team, from the teachers? Are they feeling that it's problematic for the high school students to have it on their person at lunch or in study hall, or what is the
I haven't,
consensus?
I haven't heard a lot of, so I haven't done a large survey, I'll be completely frank, but just anecdotally, I have not heard a lot of supporting comment about the continuation of unbridled access to these high schools.
Okay.
I focus on that article that was written by American Psychological Association. And I thought they had some good information in there, which APA chief scientists outlined potential harms, benefits of social media for kids. One part that really got my attention, and I'll just read it, says that developmental neuroscientists have revealed that there are two highly critical periods for adaptive neural development. Princeton said in written testimony, one of these is the first year of life. The second begins at the outset of puberty and lasts until early adulthood, approximately 10 to 25 years old. This latter period is highly relevant, as this is when a great number of youths are offered relatively unfettered access to devices and unrestricted or unsupervised use of social media and other online platforms. And it goes on to say that at puberty, he said, children begin to crave social rewards, such as visibility, attention, positive feedback from peers. In contrast, the brain regions involved in our ability to inhibit our behavior and resist temptations, the prefrontal cortex, do not fully develop until early adulthood, 10 to 15 years later. He said, in other words, when it comes to youth's cravings for social attention, they're all gas pedal with no brakes. And the research shows that there's decreased performance in school, increased anxiety, increased depression, increased suicidal ideation. I think we have a duty to act in the face of this empirical evidence. I really do. I feel strongly about it.
So I agree, Ron, there's a lot of evidence out there, and I think, like many other things, how the pendulum goes one way,
Yeah.
and we go overboard, and now the pendulum is correcting itself, and you hear it all the time about children's behavior, depression, all of those things from just, I don't know, it's a tough
I
thing.
think we should have the students put them in their lockers at the beginning of the school day and treat them at the end of the day. That's what I think. I think the evidence is there, and I just think we should act. And I think we have a duty to act. I really do. That's my personal.
I don't know how parents might feel about this, that want to have contact with their children when they know they're on lunch break or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how they'll respond, but we could do it the old fashioned way. They call the office and get a message to their student. I don't know. But I do think that even when we use the example of when our students go into the Woods program and those students come back after 3-4 days in the forest and say, wow, it's like an epiphany that I didn't need to be on my phone all that time. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be some pushback, but I do agree with Ron that we do have some type of responsibility to safeguard our children.
But whatever we do, I think we have to build in a safety valve for just exactly what you said, and it has to go, both ways, but that becomes the exception.
Well, if you read the articles that are in
Oh, yeah.
our New York Board of Education newspaper that we get, we have to let the group have ownership, whether it be the students, bringing in the parents, so that we can ultimately make the decision. But if we make them feel that they're part of the process, we might get a lot less kickback from it.
And we do have a mechanism for involvement. We have our code of conduct, which annually is reviewed, and there's a hearing which solicits public comment prior to the changing of the code of conduct. So I do think there's an opportunity there. I also think, regrettably, that this is a culture war issues that we are it's navigating it is going to be inherently fraught. But certainly, just as an educator and as a parent, what I would say, and I'm trying to look at this issue impartially, is that the Surgeon General put a pretty scathing report out about social media use last year at the start of the school year. And that report has been part of a class action suit against all of the major social media companies. And essentially, those reports have indicated that all the algorithms in these social media platforms are designed to increase the addicting capabilities of social media use and to basically perpetuate anxiety in students. So the phone of today with with the algorithms built into it in the apps is not the phone of 10 years ago. It's not dissimilar to the legalization of marijuana, that the marijuana from 50 years ago is not what has been legalized in places across the country today. So there's an added element of danger and addictive capabilities of those things too. So I would just say that the apps that are associated with phones today have been questioned by the highest medical authority in our country.
Why can't we just have a public session where parents and students come in and be heard? At the end of the day, we make the decision, but we'll listen to.
I think it's important,
Yeah.
again, if you read the articles that allow all of the groups to have some ownership of the topic, they don't feel like they're having the rug taken out from underneath them. And kind of similar to the hat issue a couple of years ago, where the students came and voiced their opinion and we listened to the teachers, and there were some parents that came. I don't know, I think it's important to
Yeah, I do
involve
too.
all the groups.
We have the policy committee, correct? So I think that would be, and that has people from all stakeholders, correct?
Yes.
So I think that would be an excellent task to give to the policy committee to convene about the cell phone usage and to begin to draft something. And I don't know if do we need to vote as a board to get them to do that, or is that just a hey?
No, they can act in that capacity, but one thing I will say about the policy committee is that the committee is traditionally very deferential to the administrative protocols of the district. And so this is an issue that is so pervasive administratively that I would just worry that they were giving a very challenging task.
Without direction.
Well, and which would have this will have vast impact on our district. And I think philosophically, there's policy committee and groups will be very good about providing insight into what a policy should look like, but at its core, it becomes to allow or not to allow. And then it really, in my estimation, becomes a matter of what is the decision that is representative of the values of the district, and who is in a position to take ownership of that decision. And so I would just be wary that a decision of that magnitude would fall to the policy committee without the explicit guidance from the board or the administration. I think that collectively our administration feels that there's little value in having continued access to these devices, but for some of the reasons that were referenced here, that being able to connect with a parent is a level of security that kids have grown up and are accustomed to, and parents similarly. But I mean, I think we could try and take the pulse of students and families to see what level of impact that would be. We can do that through surveying, we can do it through committees. But just to go to the policy committee and say, like, you should form this, I think is a task that's a bit too fast.
Are we interested in holding some kind of an evening in the auditorium where we have professionals come in and talk to the parents and talk to the students, essentially what's in the documents that we're sharing here? And they can get up. A lot of parents, even if we forwarded, an email to parents, the documents that we have here, they may not take the time to read it. But if they're listening to Dr. Susie Q up on the auditorium stage, that these are the dangers for your students, and you may not realize it, maybe it would be more impactful. And it gives us the opportunity to look that we are a board that cares about our students, and it's not just something that we want to take your kid's phone away and lock it up for them.
I like that. I think it's a good.
What should lie first?
For the second.
No, I just think that if parents
To
hear
be
this,
informed.
if you're wondering why your kid is detached at home and they're sitting in their bedroom for 3-4 hours, or they're moody or whatever, it could just be that your kid's head is in the phone all day long and they're not included in this, or exclude. I don't know. It just
Parents don't know what to do.
they don't,
They
and
really don't.
I don't know. As a parent, you know, even, as a grandparent of a student, you know, in the middle school, or, you know, you, Ryan, I mean, I would want to hear these things. I would want to hear, you know, what's really going on and the dangers, that could pose to these kids, so.
Well, I remember when the question of dispensaries being permitted in North Elba came up, we hosted a forum.
Yeah.
And, you know, we brought two folks who had a lot of insight to that. So I think a forum that can provide that is a great launching point for this. So that the research from, you know, from the experts at regional authorities can come to the fore, and, you know, I think the board could act in good faith just on that.
We've done our due diligence. I mean, our social worker here, people from Essex County, you know,
We have
mental health
we
department.
work with the prevention team, and they have a specific curriculum design that they work on actively at the elementary school about limiting screen time and social media use, responsible digital literacy. So I kind of think that's a great launching point for us.
So do I.
Yeah.
I like that.
Plus, maybe at lunchtime, the kids will interact with each other, have conversation.
I mean, it still happens. It's not
No, I
a view
know,
colony
I
by
know,
any
but-
means, but they're present.
Kids in the woods program all interact because
Yeah. No,
and they find out they really like it.
So I 1000% agree that we need to start with the parents and the children first. We can't just cram something down and put it in writing and say, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna let it do this. Trying to play devil's advocate on both sides, do I 1000% see the benefit of having less access to cell phone? Absolutely. I hate it when my kids are like this constantly. It drives me
It's
nuts,
awful.
you know? But on the other side of the coin too is, it's 2024, it's the culture. You know, what if there's an active shooter? Kids are smart enough to call 911. Kids are smart enough to video stuff, to get stuff like that. We also have to think about that too. And you are 1000% going to get pushback from just about every parent. It's the burden we're gonna have to bear.
Yeah, I
It's
think.
I think there are some
I think
parents
it's a
out
burden.
there.
Oh,
though.
agree.
You know, there'll be
Wholeheartedly
some
agree.
parents that
Absolutely.
say enough is enough.
It's a burden we have to
Absolutely,
bear.
and I understand that. I just, you know, we need to look at this as,
I think it's a duty to do the right thing here. Educating everyone as much as we can as a
Yeah.
first step
I agree.
is great.
You're definitely going to get, you're never going to be able to please everyone.
No.
So you're going to get pushback on either side, and you will have parents that these children don't watch TV at home, who don't have iPads, who aren't sitting in the car traveling with this in their face all day long. So you're going to get people on either side, but I guess that comes down to our responsibility as a board is what is the overall good?
definitely the first step is to get it formed together.
Yeah.
Say, this is what we're looking at.
Any other thoughts? Okay. I will begin the process of trying to plan something.
Okay. Great.
All right, 6A was in consent. That brings us to personnel. Personnel, recommended action, approve the following items which are included in the personnel consent agenda. 7B, teaching staff appointment, 7C, teaching staff, or teaching assistant. Do you have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen, second. Thank you, Ryan.
No discussion.
Oh, yeah, any discussion? Changes.
Sorry.
It was a good sentence.
Yes. So to just go, do I say yes?
Yes.
All right, so it's 6 yes.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome to our new staff, Mr. Monrod. And
Ms. Leclerc on her continuation as a teaching assistant.
call her employee number
I always mix that up.
1021.
So warm.
All right, 7D is CSEA staff retirement. Recommend action upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Michelle Kalina, Secretary of the Elementary School, effective September 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Ryan. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Doug? Discussion?
Ms. Kalina's been running the front office at the elementary school for a decade now.
Oh, my goodness.
Those years count double when you're dealing with phones and kids and
Ah,
staff
yeah.
simultaneously, so.
COVID.
And COVID and the contact tracing, all of the many myriad tasks, so for all of those things, we thank Ms. Kalina for her service to the district.
Doug, I'm just waiting for you.
Yeah.
Doug. Oh, there you go. 6, yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Ms. Kalina. It's very different to walk into the front office and see somebody else in there. All right, that brings us to other action items. First is Teacher Appreciation Week. Let's see. All right. No. Recommend action motion to recognize May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Do I have a motion?
I move it.
Thank you, Ron. Do I have a second? Ryan, thank you. Any discussion? If not, please vote. And hopefully Tim and the admin team have some things planned for the teachers.
Our principals do an outstanding job of honoring our teachers during that.
That's 6, yes.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our teachers. And always the bridesmaid, never the bride, school principal's day.
And that's what I was telling them, I said, teachers get a week.
Just as a recommended action motion to acknowledge May 1st and only May 1st, 2024. School's Day. Do we have a motion? Ron, you better jump on
I
that.
can't
Colleen?
abstain.
Oh, you're abstaining on that one? Colleen, first, we have a second. Second?
Yes, no way.
Thank you, Doug. Any discussion?
Teresa, Sonia, and Sarah just are true leaders in every sense of the word. They are just wonderful to work with, so giving them 24 full hours feels fantastic.
May 1st.
I was thinking about the bonus. What is that?
We can do that.
You got the flagpole.
They would love that. All right, please vote.
6, yes.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our principals. Okay. So that brings us to 8C, which is the Board of Cooperative Education Services Administrative Budget for 2024-2025 year. Recommended action being resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the administrative budget for the Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the sole supervisory district of Franklin, Essex, and Hamilton counties in the amount of $3,156,770 for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Doug. Discussion.
You're looking at me.
There you go, John. Take it away.
Comment.
Yeah, I posted my comments. Say content. What I'd like to do is essentially
To hear it.
rationalize. these are comments on the FEH BOCES admin budget proposal. This is by John Hopkinson. First of all, I have no issues whatsoever with FEH BOCES in general. In fact, I believe that they provide a valuable and wonderful service to many kids throughout our region. Nevertheless, I do have major issues with the structure and leadership of that organization. There are 14 listed and named positions in the BOCES admin department. Half are less than 1/2 FTE, and half of these are less than 1/4 FTE. 4 employees are called assistant. How can this collection, mostly subordinate part-timers, which we are asked to pay for, function effectively and efficiently? The decades-long scheme for allocating BOCES admin expenses between its 10 component districts seems to be prescribed by New York State law. If true, I believe that the system sucks. Why so? Because the allocation favors the smaller districts that receive more state aid, and because approval or not of the BOCES admin budget gives all districts an equal weight. As a result, BOCES admin, parenthetically, also the BOCES board, which is staffed and overweighted by these very same smaller districts, knows with near certainty that there will be majority support for their budget proposal, whatever it is. There are no realistic checks and balances in this process. In fact, it is self-serving. The only path to develop a lean organization and a tight budget must come from a group initiative and the self-discipline of BOCES admin executives and its board members. For many years in the past and up to now, I've seen no demonstration of such courageous and inspirational leadership. Asked if I am delighted and appreciative that the BOCES admin budget has been reduced from last year's exorbitant 2.2 times, or likely 3.4 actually, total budget increase of only in excess of 1.2 times this year. My answer is a resounding no. And just parenthetically, last year's budget was in excess of 7%, and now we're compounding that with another 4%. So that's a pretty big jump in a couple of years, and it's way, way higher than what we're allowed by law to present as the text of the bill. As a result, I intend to vote nay on approval when it comes up for a vote, even though I realize that I am one member of this education, not my personal position. I have much understand. While I might be casting a protest, I believe that I am great. This year's BOCES admin budget proposal is a fait accompli. But going forward, and with all due respect, I asked all involved parties to review, rethink, and revise past and current ways of handling this matter. I'd just like to add an additional comment. I was on the Board of Education about 10 years, 3 years. And this very same issue came up. My position was exactly the same. And as some of you know, I stated so. And I just feel that the BOCES executive organization and the board, the BOCES board is really clueless to what the situation is. because they haven't changed, even though this has been brought to their attention on more than one occasion, for many, many years. So that's why I think what I would like to see in coming years, because this is essentially a done deal for this year, is that they just rethink, reevaluate, and come back with a lean organization and a tight budget that is somewhat comports with all the things that the school districts have to do to get their budgets approved by their communities. So I thank you very much for the opportunity.
What is the amount that we're paying this year versus what we paid last year?
You know, like a dollar amount?
Yeah, the dollar.
I think last year we were 1.5, almost $1.6 million. And this year it's, I think what they sent us was a little over 1.4. And the majority of that decrease is not on the admin side, it's on the program side.
Programs.
We had students shipped out of the alternate event program. So that saw after wrangling, bunch of, on Tim's behalf, to charge us as a tuition base, not as a 5-year average. We saw a considerable savings.
Savings.
We were last year going to be spending over $500,000 for 3 students going to the alt-ed program because of the way that they charge. And rightfully, they have that ability to charge that way.
Dana, what percentage, in one of their documents, it said, individual district pays based on weighted enrollment data. So district assessment charge may be above or below the projected increase of 4.27%. What is our percentage based on our weighted enrollment data? Do you know that?
I think the increase was a little under 3% for us. And I
Okay.
think some districts were as high as 8 or 9%, if I remember the diagram. And some of that is, as Tim is slightly misleading because their admin portion was that, but then there's a separate line, which isn't part of this, is the capital charge. So basically they can charge all districts a capital charge to upkeep their buildings. And we were seeing that was going to be like a 5 or 6% increase. So for us, when we budget it, we roll it in all under the same account code. They rightfully separate it out as they can, but when we do it, so when I look at the total dollar amount, I look at admin and capital.
And
Yes.
Yeah, the figure that we're really focusing this attention on is the admin component,
Right.
not the program.
Correct. I mean, that's
And
right.
Most of the money that's spent is we decide to use these services and we get charged for it, and we pay it. It's a pay-as-you-go situation. The admin section is different. That's one that, based on 10 districts voting yay or nay on the total $3.1 million admin budget, it's not divide by 10. It's divide by the portion that one is allocated by the state.
The Arwada form.
Yeah,
So
it's,
that figure then, Dana, that you just said that we're not at 4.27%, that doesn't fall into the category that John's talking about?
On the detailed spreadsheet you put together a month or so ago, you had a line item that's called BOCES admin.
correct, yes.
And I think it went from roughly 2,250 up to about 2.6. So
that's our share.
that's our share of the 3 point something admin budget.
Right, yeah, because Tim had a spreadsheet that actually broke down so that you could see every school and their portion of the
I
admin.
never saw.
So John, is your argument that for that portion of the budget, our portion that we're plunking in exceeds what we should be based on these other 10?
Well, this is based on state law. I mean, the
Yeah, so the
allocation.
percentage that we pay of the total admin is set by state law,
Right,
but you're
okay.
saying there's no constraint on the board to reduce the
Right.
admin
The,
because
yeah, it's
the vast majority of them don't pay like we do.
it's less the dollar, in my mind, it's less than the dollar amount. It's this OC's admin staff and the board, they're out of control. And there's no checks and balances in the system because the voting that is going to occur today across the region, every district gets one vote, not the amount of money.
It's not weighted voting.
Yeah,
A
So
dollar from us is more of a true dollar than a dollar from a more aid-heavy school.
yeah.
Precisely.
what other schools are kind of in our, of these 10 schools, what other districts are kind of in our category?
Saranac Lake.
If you look at it with the component schools in terms of our aid ratio, because that's really what it comes down to is
Okay.
districts, if you get a higher aid ratio from the states, it is they benefit from using a BOCES service because they're gonna get more back. So we're at the lowest end. We get about 33 cents on the dollar back. Saranac Lake is second. They're probably maybe low 40s, but I don't know exactly what they are.
The second.
Yeah, Copper Lake is kind of third. In a couple years ago, when I looked at it, they were at that 50% mark. And then I believe every other district in our
Way up.
they're probably at least 75% or higher in terms of their
So it's the
regional
Tri-Lakes
rates.
area,
So
essentially.
the three districts down here have the lowest aid ratio, whereas the remaining 6 districts
Got it.
are on the north end, all that. So what John's point is districts that utilize the service, they're gonna always vote yes because they're getting back 80
Yeah,
cents
they get
to
all their-
90
So
cents
how
on the
vocal
dollar.
are the other 2 local districts?
So-
I mean, I don't
In the
know.
past, I think Saranac Lake has voted it down. We voted it down. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is, there's 10 districts that vote and each one gets one vote. But again, don't confuse the situation of dollar amount. It's the principle.
So let me ask you-
They just.
Okay.
quick. They've got an overstaffed admin department, even if we're just, as I said, understaffed or subordinate people who are only essentially working a couple hours a week. We not only pay for their salaries with this admin, but we're gonna pay their
For
retirement
the retirement.
when they come. And if you read the BOCES discussion, they are working toward 100% of the retirees' benefits are going to be in the admin.
I think that's the hardest part for our district, John.
Yeah,
Is the larger the footprint. So when someone retires, their legacy costs, whether they were a program operator or in the admin budget, the goal of the BOCES is to progressively roll more of those legacy costs into the admin budget. And so the larger the footprint, staff-wise, that the BOCES has for programs that are not financially incentivized for us to participate in, ultimately creates a situation down the road where the legacy costs lead to greater payments on we're essentially paying for the retiree benefits of staff whose programs we would never buy into anyways. But the second they retire, then we assume those. So in a perfect world, the true cost of an employee would be built into the program cost for the district that utilizes the service, which would include the legacy cost that wouldn't be then rolled in for all 10 component districts thereafter.
but
So I have a question on that. So to what extent is what you're saying, push on legacy costs of the admin budget? Is that discretionary on the part of the people that vote? Is it set by state law?
It's set by state law.
Oh, it is.
yeah, you can't, I mean,
So the legacy costs will go in the admin budget, even if we think, no, I got it.
Yeah, and so that from our perspective as a district, because the aid rate is so unfavorable for us, there has to be great incentivization beyond finance for us to undertake a service from the BOCES. Some of those compelling factors in CTE are so obvious, we would never run our own garage. So to teach students automotive, so we're very strong in support of the CTE programs. But the à la carte services that proliferate and have proliferated to great effect of late, there's little incentivization for us to join those. But when all of those folks associated in servicing the districts that only have to pay 20 cents on the dollar for those services, when they retire, we
Yeah.
absorb those costs.
Yeah, so again, it's, the principle is, as far as my, this is my perspective, I would never put together an admin department that's staffed with a whole bunch of part-timers in a very
Yeah,
supportive.
so that's my question. What's the evidence of the fact that they're not run efficiently, the admin department? Just, you've been watching it for years, so,
I've run
yeah,
a company of 120
Yeah.
people,
so,
which had an admin department. And we were challenged every single day. Why spend, why do you have so many people?
got it.
And if you have turnover, that really screws up your, efficiency.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Well, why would they have a bunch of part-time employees in admin?
Well, so the unique thing here is, so when you look, there's 14 positions here that are in the admin budget to varying degrees of full-time equivalencies. So all of these people are actually full-time employees.
Okay.
It's just that they are coded as admin for percent. So that is, so 0.15 FTE of the assistant superintendent for instruction falls under the admin budget. The other 0.85 gets picked up on the program side of that.
Program side, I got you, okay.
Not, I mean, how do you really think that out? But anyway,
Yeah.
that's a whole
I understand.
different discussion. But I see no incentive on the part of the BOCES board or their executive group to really take a hard look at running, how they run that organization in terms of staffing and expenditures. I think it's loosey-goosey, and as I said, there's no checks and balances in the system effectively because
It's an unfair vote.
the number
I
of,
got that part. Let me go back to the fundamental premise though. You've dealt with these guys for a long time. What is your opinion about how they run the organization, the administrator? Your opinion, and your dealing.
kind of a loaded question.
On the public record.
It's a lot of question, but
Sure. I think that the perception of how the organization is run has to be filtered through the district dollar hit. That like and for me, it's impossible to separate because it's a value proposition. And for us, the value due to the aid rate being so abysmal immediately is impacted so substantially that the service has to be impeccable for us to want to buy into it.
Got it.
Whereas if I can, for 20 cents on the dollar through the aid prospect in another district, utilize a service that may not be impeccable, but does the job, I'm going to be satisfied because theoretically I did it for 80 cents less than I could in my own district.
Mhm.
So to that point, I'm not sure I'm qualified to speak to that. I know that the message that our board sent last year, that a 7.78% increase in the admin budget compared to our tax cap levy 3% with allowables, that our message of voting that down was very much heard by the BOCES admin, such that Dana and I had meetings with the district superintendent, and our BOCES rep, Peter Lynch, has been advocating fiercely for our perspective. Ultimately, we are a part of the BOCES. And so, our natural impulse due to the cost mechanisms is for them to maintain a leaner organization so that we can operate within our parameters more comfortably. Like not the areas that are outside of our control, we want to limit those whenever possible. Health insurance costs are going to rise. TRS and ERS, things that are set by organizations outside of our own. But I would just say, like, John has a valid point from my perspective, because the die is cast for our district and has been historically. That's why this issue has persisted. And one of the ways that the BOCES could show greater, I guess, understanding for the predicament that we are in is to maintain as lean an administrative budget as they're able to do. And I don't know what it takes to run the BOCES, but I know when you continue adding things that we do not buy into, that may not be as lean as we would attest to.
So, Dana, how did their admin budget go up this year relative to last year? What is the percentage?
Did you say it was like overall, it was like a little over 4%?
It's 427 this year versus 7.4.
Last year was 7 point.
That's right.
But this is compound.
Oh, I understand that.
Our 4+% is on
On
top
top of the
last
7,
year's
I
7.
understand that.
Yeah.
I understand compounding, yes. Okay, you've answered my question, thank you.
And also, as Tim mentioned, more and more people that kind of come on here and then ultimately retire.
Oh, it's a killer.
If they bring the
Legacy cost.
legacy costs
It's a killer.
to 100% in the admin budget, it's going to get allocated out the same way
Sure.
that it is this year. It just gets worse and worse as time goes on.
We have no control over the fact that the legacy costs go into the admin budget, number one. And number two, what our share of the admin budget is. All we can do is ask them to be lean and mean, right?
That's why I said.
Ideally, yeah. So there's the philosophy of building out and building up. And so like I've always viewed BOCES like the crown jewel of BOCES is the CTE programs from my perspective.
Yes.
As an educator. And so building out for me is creating all these additional things that aren't in the service of that. Building up is taking something that is the crown jewel and shining it through partnership in various ways and maintaining the focus area on that. And that leads to continuous improvement for those programs without having all these subsidiary services that are going to cost the other districts. Everyone's in support of the CTE because we know the value that they have for the kids. But for us, we go without on so many services because there's just not the value proposition for us is so low.
Yeah, the thing that's always been frustrating to me is that we have to operate under the tax cap as we mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
And there doesn't seem to be any correlation between what the districts have to budget. And, there needs to be some sort of ratio so that, things like last year don't happen where they're wanting to increase 7.4%.
And we're,
And we're stuck at 3.
right, right.
So, when you look at like the ratio of increasing budgets, there's nothing to prevent them from ballooning up
No,
higher and higher. Whereas our district, and then, down the road, does that mean we have to start making, cuts to our programming for our staff
Yeah,
that benefits?
comes out of us.
Yeah,
you got it. No, I know that.
Even though it is again, it's the principle. It runs me the wrong way, if I can be blunt, that somebody has all this staff and they seem to be clueless to running things in a very tight manner. I mean, and because they know it's going to get approved.
It's easy to spend other people's money.
Yeah,
It really easy.
well, particularly when you get the board, but half of the small districts.
Right. They were
Salmon
incentivized.
River and Lake. I sympathize with them. They get a lot of their admin services from BOCES because they can't afford to do it themselves. It's kind of it's a make buy situation for them. They did a good deal. I don't think we are.
I get it. I agree with you.
All right, any other discussion? If not, I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what's the-
Sure. Consent agenda, yeah.
That would be 6 now.
Thank you. for the hard work.
Thanks, John.
I appreciate it.
Next up. Resolution for the election of the Board of Cooperative Education Services, BOCES Board of Education. Recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education casts its vote on the annual election of members of the Franklin Essex Hamilton Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the person or persons indicated on the attached ballot. See the attached ballot there. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Doug. Discussion? There's 3 vacancies and 3 people to fill them, so. There we go.
So are we voting, yes, for all 3 of them?
I guess that's what we gotta decide, don't we? Since the ballot's not filled out. Yes, we can go ahead and vote.
Yeah.
Or we can vote on whether or not we want to vote yes on all. How about that? We still have to vote.
Right.
So the voting will be.
So, right, all right, so Dennis Egan.
Well, I think we'll just do, is there anybody who wants to vote separately on these, or we're gonna do?
Oh, you
The rest of the slate.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the voting affirmative on all 3 of these candidates for the 3 positions that are open. Any discussion beyond that? If not, then please vote.
That's 6 yes.
Everyone. Next is the resolution for election of the Board of Cooperative, approval of the Lake Placid Central Schools 2024-2025 budgets. Recommended action, be resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the Lake Placid Central Schools Administration Program and capital budgets for the 2024-2025 school year totaling $22,400,000 as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Ron. Second, Brian. Any discussion? Got a lot of discussion about that. Not, then please vote.
Six yes.
Thank you, everyone. 8F, approval of the property tax report card 2024-2025. Recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the property tax report card for the 2024-25 school budget as per the attached. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Doug with the second. Any discussion? Yes.
Just a quick question. The executive comment says if there was a change. I didn't have enough time to go back and look at. Could you tell me what changed?
Yeah, so it was all stemmed to how much we're going to be allocating for the appropriated fund balance. Because the state aid
Okay.
came back
Yeah.
as a 0, not a decrease. I just changed that. We were sitting at like $1.5, $1.6 million of appropriated fund balance. It's now projected or estimated to be $843,853. So what I gave to Karen and she uploaded last week was before the state passed their budget.
All right.
So this morning I just made a change to the
Fund balance went
Yeah,
down.
so the fund balance went down as well as for revenue. I also took a little out of our interest accounts, just to kind of be a little more conservative. But the dollar amount stays the
So
same.
after this, our total fund balance is,
It all depends on if we actually use it. So going into it, if we use $1 million that's currently budgeted and then 853,000 at the end of 24-25, then we're looking at about 13% less. Or you can see that's 13.98% of our fund, of what's remaining. Starting at the beginning of this, or June 30th of 23, we're sitting at a little over $4.6 million.
I see it, yeah, got it.
I can tell you right now, we will most likely not use $1 million in fund balance this year.
Good.
We already have $1 million more and,
Thanks for the explanation.
Yep.
I got it.
All right, 8G was, oh, sorry, did we vote?
I'm waiting for John to vote.
You just say it.
Yes. Yeah, you can tell them.
So that's six, yeah.
There it is.
Just- I did it for 6 yeah.
Really moving us along.
Always worried about it.
It takes a long time.
All right. 8G was in consent, as was 8H. 8I is now the appraisal, valuation, acquisition, resolution. We will get out. So recommended action, approve the resolution as stated below, whereas the applicant's name below filed an application, wait. No, it's the same one.
What is going on?
You're reading the AV reduction.
I'm thinking of something, big screen
What's going
for
on?
Daniel.
Yeah.
Is it not right?
H. Appraisal valuation, okay, now it is. That was weird, okay. Recommended action upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Lake Placid Central School Board of Education authorizes William Kissel, School Board Counsel, to obtain an appraisal or valuation of an 18-month lease for a 0.34 acre parcel of vacant land located adjacent to 61 Cummings Road, Lake Placid. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Ryan. Colleen, second. Any discussion?
This is in reference to the parcel of land that the district is partnering with the Lake Placid Food Pantry and Thrift Shop on. And so this is the next step in ensuring that the transfer of property is done in compliance with the state education law.
6 yes.
Thank you, everyone. 8J was in consent. It's supposed to be consent. That brings us down to linking goals with agenda items. I think the science of reading, adding that into the budget, like students first and foremost. Good to be ahead of the curve. for
So
once.
true, it's very nice.
All the budget.
All right, any others? Please send them to Karen. That brings us to our second good of the cause. Do we have any communiques?
We do not.
Okay. Next meeting date and location, we will be hitting the road to Wilmington for a budget hearing on May 7th, 2020. May 7th. And then May 21st will be the budget vote.
We don't have a meeting that night, correct, Karen? I think it's
No, we
Tuesday,
meet
okay.
the next night.
The next night is Wednesday. Yeah. May 22nd will be Wednesday, where we will just be doing the budget.
Correct.
Alrighty. Any new agenda items?
I would like to add, I know Tim's aware of this, and over the last year, I've chatted with Tim about trying to bring back our driver education program to the district. And at one point, Tim did have an interested individual in the district that we thought might have attended a summer program for the training, but I don't think is not interested any longer. But it's just something that's been wearing on my mind, and it used to be in our district. I think it went the wayside 15, 20 years ago, where we haven't had it in our district. And it's just a really important thing that we offer for our students. You know,
So I agree with it.
yeah. no,
Someone
it's
who's
just we
teaching
used-
his teacher to drive. Very much like.
I have the same problem,
I
sir.
mean,
Yeah.
we have tragedies that happen, which is last spring on the Mackenzie Pond Road, where we lost those
Yeah.
2 teenagers. And if there's anything that we can do as a school district to give a little bit of extra education to our students in that area, I think we need to do whatever we can do, whether it be in the district or through the village or the town, to reenact this in our district. So anything that anybody can think of between now and the next meeting, Tim is already kind of on top of it, and I believe Dana as well.
Are there private groups that
There,
do that?
There's a driving school in Plattsburgh that is
Plattsburgh.
outside of
Nothing
our,
here?
nothing here. And like the most expeditious route is for a certified teacher to take additional coursework and have the certification for this. It is far faster than to have someone in any other field without certification begin that process. It's rather lengthy. So our real hope is to find a teacher that's interested in taking this additional work. And I put the clarion call out twice to our staff. So some options could be to look outward or to try to incentivize inward more for some people to take this additional educational requirement.
I mean, back in the day, for anybody local, Steve Morgan ran the program for forever until he retired. And I don't know why it went the wayside, something like this. It baffles me that.
It was the year we had all the cuts.
Yeah, and it just went the wayside, but I don't know, there has to be a way that we can do this. And some communities, I did some research. There are, like in the state of Vermont, sometimes it's not the district that always does it. Sometimes it comes from the various municipalities. It could be our village, it could be our town that sponsors a summer program. There's all different ways that we can look at it, but it may be a little too late for this summer, but I hope by next summer that we're able to offer this for our kids. Anyway.
Agreed.
I like it. I agree.
Awesome.
All right, any other new agenda items? Any old agenda items? All right, recommend action, motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:45 PM. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Thank you, Ryan. Ron, second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Yes. You can